สวัสดีครับวันนี้เรามาไลฟ์กันนะครับเดี๋ยวขออนุญาตเซตอัพสักครู่หนึ่งนะครับก่อนที่เราจะเริ่มกันอย่างเป็นทางการนะครับถ้าเกิดว่าใครเข้ามาแล้วนะครับแล้วได้ยินนะครับสำหรับไลฟ์นี้นะครับก็สามารถคอมเมนต์มาหน่อยก็ได้นะครับเดี๋ยวเราจะได้เริ่มต้นกันนะครับวันนี้เราอยู่กับมหาวิทยาลัยจากแคนาดานะครับซึ่งมีศิษย์เก่าของมหาวิทยาลัยอยู่ด้วยนะครับเป็นมหาวิทยาลัยที่มีทั้งหลักสูตรป.ตรีนะครับแล้วก็ป.โทแล้วก็post degree นะครับที่น่าสนใจแล้วก็เป็นมหาวิทยาลัยของรัฐด้วยนะครับที่เราเรียนจบแล้วเนี่ยสามารถขอ PGWP ได้เนาะก็ถ้าเกิดว่าใครเข้ามาแล้วนะครับสามารถที่จะรับชมรับฟังได้นะครับวันนี้เราอยู่กับThompson Rivers University นะครับเป็นมหาวิทยาลัยของรัฐนะครับตั้งอยู่ในย่านเมืองชื่อแคมลูปส์นะครับซึ่งบินจากแวนคูเวอร์ไปเนี่ยไม่เกินประมาณ 40-50 นาทีนะครับก็สามารถที่จะดูเป็นตัวเลือกได้นะครับตั้งแต่ระดับดิปโลมานะครับป.ตรีนะครับ post baccalaureate diploma นะครับก็คือจบป.ตรีแล้วถึงจะเข้าเรียนได้หรือว่าตัวที่เป็นmaster degree เองก็มีให้ได้ศึกษานะครับแล้วก็ใครที่เข้ามาวันนี้นะครับเดี๋ยวเราจะคุยกับเจ้าหน้าที่ของมหาวิทยาลัยที่บินมาจากแคนาดานะครับแล้วก็ถ้าเกิดว่าใครมีคำถามนะครับสามารถที่จะโพสต์ไว้ในคอมเมนต์ได้นะครับทั้งทาง Facebook แล้วก็ YouTube นะครับเดี๋ยวเราจะดึงขึ้นมาแล้วก็จะพูดคุยกันนะครับแต่ว่าก่อนที่เราจะเริ่มต้นดึงคำถามขึ้นมาถ้าเกิดว่าใครเข้ามาฟังแล้วมีคำถามนะครับเดี๋ยวเราจะถามคำถามที่ทางเราเตรียมไว้ก่อนนะครับ Okay, it has been confirmed that the sound is good. So let's begin.ก็ please introduce yourself quickly. But before that, I want to say thank you for coming over to our studio. But yeah, I know you are a graduate of TRU too, so that will be very helpful for the audience to listen to you. But before we get started, maybe you can help the audience to learn more about you a little bit.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here today. My name is Suraj. I'm the Associate Director of International Marketing and Recruitment at Thompson Rivers University. I've been working at TRU in the student recruitment team for the past 8 years, and I've helped and worked with many students and partners over the years. I'm really happy to be here today and to talk to you and share my experience with you. I think we already mentioned earlier that I'm an alumni of TRU as well. So I've studied at TRU. I took the post-baccalaureate diploma in marketing as an international student and graduated and got my postgraduate work permit and eventually became a permanent resident of Canada. So followed through with this typical international student pathway that many students choose to pursue. So I'm happy to talk to you about your career options and study options with TRU and at British Columbia today.
That's good because you went through that process, right?
Yeah.
You started with the students, then you get jobs, and then you already apply and got the PR, I believe. Yeah. So I think that is the pathway that a number of Thai students are considering Canada right now. The reasons to go to Canada because they want to find job opportunity and perhaps apply for the PR later on. So I think let's begin with the questions. If students are considering Canada, why do you think TRU might be the best option for them?
Okay, so that's a good question, and I think a lot of this resonates with my personal experience, but also with all the students I've worked with. I think this is specifically for students that really enjoy nature, that like the true Canadian experience, which is, in line with nature and enjoy a public university environment, which is a beautiful campus. We have a very solid campus community at TRU. We have over 15,000 students with 3,900 international students. So students that enjoy the diversity as well as having Canadian students in their classroom and learning from instructors from around the world as well. With state-of-the-art, like very modern facilities and infrastructure, I think TRU would be a good fit for them. Typically, we have several different programs at TRU. I think over 140 programs between 9 areas of studies. So we have business, arts, tourism, hospitality, nursing, education, IT, and more. And I think for students that are interested, most students that are interested in these programs, we will have a program for them, either at the bachelor's level, a post-baccalaureate diploma level, or at a master's level. The reason I think why they should choose TRU, if they think TRU is a good school for them, is because TRU is very focused on making students employment ready. And that's the one thing that we notice a lot with all our new programs as well. They're all built to meet the labor shortage in British Columbia. And many of our programs have a 100% employment rate. Additionally, many of our programs are also they already have the co-op component, which allows students to work as a part of their studies and get some practical experience and exposure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something that I think it might be helpful to clarify or emphasize a little bit, because students who go to Canada, they also consider about job opportunity after graduation, right? It has been saying that, to get jobs, colleges will help them because of the curriculum are like career focus, and while university are like focusing on theory, not so much of hands-on. Would you say it true, or like would you want to provide your own experience, share your own experience on kind of how curriculum at university is like for you?
Of course. So I think that really depends on which institution you choose. I can't speak for other universities, but at TRU, even though we are one of the 6 research universities in British Columbia, I think at the end of the day, what students are looking for, they will find it, because we have lots of flexibility in our programs. So for example, let's take our MBA. In the MBA, you can graduate either with a thesis, a research, or you could just take courses, or you could actually do a practical project with an employer. So similarly, in most of our programs, we have the flexibility for students to choose between any of the options. And just flexibility like that really helps students to do what they want with their academic path, at least. When it comes to the career side of things, I strongly believe TRU provides a lot of support to students, especially international students, in finding employment. We have a career education center, which is basically focused on helping students with their career. And when I say career, I mean career and not a job. They will also help students with finding part-time jobs or providing them with the resources to find a part-time job. But the main focus still remains career, which is your long-term career. When you graduate, what are you going to do? How are you going to go, play the long game and be successful in life? As per the statistics from the BC government, 93% of our students are already employed within the first year of their graduation, and their average starting salary is 60,000 Canadian dollars. So these are statistics that we have from the government of BC, and that speaks to our employment. And as I mentioned, with many of the programs being having a 100% employment rate, in many cases, these employers will contact us and say, hey, when are your next set of graduates coming out of your programs? For example, the early childhood education or the Bachelor of Education in STEM, which we'll talk about in a bit. So those programs have really, really high employment rates.
Okay. So I will summarize what we have discussed in Thai a little bit. ก็จริงๆแล้วเราคุยกันนะครับว่าทำไมถึงต้องเป็นที่ TRU ส่วนหนึ่งก็คือตัวเมืองแคมป์สูตรเองเนี่ยก็จะเป็นเมืองที่ค่อนข้างใกล้ชิดกับธรรมชาตินะครับแต่ว่าใกล้ชิดกับธรรมชาติแค่ไหนหรือว่าไปอยู่แล้วมันมีสิ่งอำนวยความสะดวกอะไรบ้างเนี่ยเดี๋ยวเป็นสิ่งที่เดี๋ยวผมจะ follow up กับคุณสุรัตน์นะครับเพราะว่าเขาเคยอยู่เมืองใหญ่นะครับในอินเดียคือมุมไบนะแล้วก็ไปอยู่ที่แคมป์ลูปเนาะเดี๋ยวจะคุยกันเรื่องบรรยากาศการใช้ชีวิตในเมืองนะครับแล้วก็การปรับตัวนะครับแต่ว่าอีกอันนึงเนี่ยนอกจากการที่มันเป็นเมืองที่ใกล้ชิดกับธรรมชาติแล้วเนี่ยมันก็เป็นมหาวิทยาลัยที่มีหลักสูตรที่เปิดสอนโดยที่ไม่ได้โฟกัสแค่ theory นะครับใครอยากเรียนเป็นสาย theory ก็มีนะครับหรือใครอยากที่จะเรียนโฟกัสไปในส่วนของการจบแล้วเพื่อทำงานเนี่ยก็จะมีหลักสูตรที่เทรนให้เราไปทำงานหลายๆโปรแกรมก็อัตราการจ้างงานหลังจบการศึกษาค่อนข้างสูงนะอย่างที่เขาพูดถึงตัว early childhood เองก็ตามหรือตัว education เองก็ตามนะที่เป็น bachelor degree เนาะซึ่งเดี๋ยวเราคุยกันเรื่องของหลักสูตรด้วยนะครับแต่ว่ามหาวิทยาลัยเองก็มีส่วนของ career support ที่จะช่วยเราด้วยนะเราไปเรียนแล้วเราอยากที่จะหางานพาร์ทไทม์ทำระหว่างเรียนหรือว่าวางแผน career path ของเราในอนาคตในแคนาดาเนี่ยเขาก็มีออฟฟิศตรงนั้นที่จะคอยช่วย support เราในส่วนของการวางแผนการเตรียมตัวหางานหลังเรียนจบนะครับแล้วก็อีกอย่างหนึ่งก็คือ TRU เป็น public research university 1 ใน 6 แห่งในจังหวัดBritish Columbia นะครับ ดังนั้นเรื่องของคุณภาพแล้วก็เรื่องของมาตรฐานการศึกษาเนี่ยก็สามารถที่จะวางใจได้ไม่ใช่สิ่งที่เราอาจจะต้องเป็นกังวลมากเกินไปนะครับถ้าเกิดว่าเราอยากที่จะไปอยู่ใน University แล้วก็อยู่ในเมืองที่ไม่ได้ใหญ่มากนะครับ Alright, before we go into other details, let's talk about highlighted programs at TRU.
Okay.
There are so many programs, diploma level, bachelor, post-baccalaureate, and also master programs. But some of the programs that you think it might be, they are very strong or they are very good at TRU. Would you want to, or maybe new program to you, would you want to mention to the audience about these programs?
Of course. Maybe we can start with the master's level and
Sure.
then work our way down to the undergraduate degrees. So with the master's degrees at TRU, we offer the Master of Arts in Human Rights and Social Justice. So that's a new program. And then we have several other masters such as MBA, Master of Education, Master of Nursing, and so on and so forth. In the post-bac diploma, so these are the post-degree or the postgraduate diplomas that many students are already familiar with. TRU offers 2-year, very practical, very hands-on type of programs. These programs will allow students to learn everything in the Canadian context in 4 semesters, graduate, and be employment ready. We have these diplomas in several different areas, primarily in business,
Right.
tourism, and applied data science. So many of these programs, they're called post-bac diploma in marketing, post-bac diploma in accounting, in finance, HR, supply chain, so a lot of different areas within business. And then the tourism and the applied data science are also very popular, especially to meet the labor market shortage in British Columbia. So again, it's the same thing. These are very employment-focused programs. And then we have the bachelor's degrees at TRU. So we have Bachelor of Business, Arts, Tourism, Science, Software Engineering, Computing Science, lots of bachelor's programs. But if you mentioned highlight programs, so we'll talk about the Bachelor of Education today with the secondary and STEM. So that program will allow students to become a teacher in Canada if they already have a bachelor's degree in Thailand.
Right.
So the requirement is basically the student has a bachelor's degree here, goes there, studies in 1 year, graduates from the program, and has the license to start teaching right away. Yeah. So maybe, I don't know if you want to translate this in Thai, and then I think...
Sure. It's a good
I will
stop.
speak shorter.
Okay. No, this is okay. I will start from the master degree to sum it quickly. ก็จริงๆแล้ว master degree ใครจบป.ตรีแล้วอยากจะต่อป.โทนะครับที่ TRU ก็มีโปรแกรมที่น่าสนใจโดยเฉพาะด้าน เป็นหลักสูตร MBA เป็น Master of Education หรือหลักสูตรใหม่ที่เขาเพิ่งเปิดเองก็ตามก็เกี่ยวข้องกับ Social Justice นะครับใครที่อยากทำงานภาคสังคมนะไม่ว่าจะเป็นกับ NGO หรือว่า Government นะครับหรือว่าเอกชนบางส่วนเนี่ยซึ่งก็มีความต้องการในการจ้างงานในส่วนนี้อยู่เหมือนกันอยากเรียนสายต่อยอดในการเรียนสายสังคมแล้วก็ทำงานด้านนี้นะครับมี Master เปิดสอนที่เปิดใหม่แล้วก็ตัว Data Science เองก็มีเป็น Master โปรแกรมนะครับจริงๆมีหลากหลายตัวเลือกเข้าไปดูในเว็บ TRU ได้นะแต่ว่าใครที่จบป.ตรีแล้วจะดู Master ก็ได้หรือจะดูเป็น Post Baccalaureate Diploma ก็ได้ซึ่งก็มีหลากหลายตัวเลือกตามที่สุรัตน์เขาพูดถึงนะครับรวมถึงอันใหม่ที่เพิ่งเปิดนั่นก็คือ Applied Data Science นะครับใครที่อยากเรียนตรงนี้ที่ TRU ก็มีเปิดสอนเหมือนกันด้าน Data Science นะครับนอกจากด้าน Business แล้วก็ Hospitality เนาะที่ลงมาระดับ Bachelor โปรแกรมเนี่ยก็มีหลากหลายมากๆเลยทั้ง Engineering Science นะครับ Computer Science Business เนาะแล้วก็อันนึงที่เมื่อกี้เราไฮไลท์กันก็คือตัว education นะครับอันนี้ขอพูดเป็นไฮไลท์นิดนึงคือใครนะครับที่ทำงานหรือว่าจบครูนะครับมีประวัติการทำงานจบครุมานะครับจากไทยเนาะเรียนป.ตรีมาเนี่ยเขาอยากไปเป็นครูนะครับในแคนาดานะครับสามารถดูตัวเลือก Bachelor of Education ที่ TRU ได้นะครับโดยที่เราเรียนนะครับ1 ปีเนาะแล้วก็จบเนี่ยเราสามารถที่จะขอ PGWP หลังนั้นจบได้สูงสุดถึง3 ปีเลยนะครับก็เป็นอีกตัวเลือกที่น่าสนใจใครอยากจะไปทำงานเป็นครูในแคนาดานะครับโดยเฉพาะถ้าเป็นครูที่สอนเกี่ยวข้องกับ STEM นะครับก็คือ Science Technology Engineering Mathematics นะครับระดับ Secondary ก็คือมัธยมนะครับก็ที่ TRU มีโปรแกรมตรงนี้ที่รับนักเรียนต่างชาติไปเรียนนะครับแล้วก็น่าสนใจมากๆใครที่อาจจะอยากไปทำงานครูในแคนาดาระดับมัธยมเนาะโอเคI think I sum up we have mentioned and then we can continue.
Thank you. So I think the last thing I mentioned was the bachelor's degrees. Maybe we move on to the next question.
Yeah. Okay. So I mentioned about the Bachelor of Education already, and then if we believe, I think to emphasize, they can look up on TRU website, International Student Programs, to find all the lists. I think that was something I want to suggest. So, right now, when students consider Canada, a number of students might think about bigger city or the city that come into their mind at first, Vancouver or Toronto. Let's talk about the city a bit, Kamloops. So before we started this session, we talked about yourself, that you were in a very big city like Mumbai, and then you went to Kamloops. How was it like for you to live and study in Kamloops?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I always love when that question is asked because, I grew up in a city with 25 million people to a city of 100,000 people. And I chose TRU for many reasons. And I think when our students choose that as well, they will realize once they're on campus, it's very hard to describe it in words. Because when you come from a big city or a country which is very populated, like India or like Thailand, and then when you move to Canada, first of all, even like our big cities in Canada are not very highly populated. They're still comparatively much lesser. But the smaller cities, such as Kamloops, our population is 100,000 people, and it's just so refreshing from the entire busy life that students have in their entire life. I think TRU and Kamloops make a great launch pad for students. Again, resonating from my personal experience, but also recommending students. When you go there, it's a great break from the urban life while they're studying. There's lesser distractions, more time to focus. And then when they graduate, they can go anywhere they want within Canada. But a lot of our students obviously want to stay back in Kamloops, and that happens quite a bit. We do have a lot of industry in Kamloops as well, from clean energy and high tech to hospitals and hospitality. So we have lots of these industries in Kamloops, but typically students, it is a life-changing experience. It's not like going to Vancouver or Toronto where you'll end up with your own set of friends all the time, which is your own culture usually. I think going to Kamloops is actually experiencing the real Canadian life because a lot more Canadians than you would, and I think that really helps becoming Canadian faster, learning, getting more fluent in English and learning Canadian culture. So that's why Kamloops will make a great fit for students who want that experience.
Okay. If you don't mind, I'll ask one follow-up question. So why did you choose TRU when you were considering institution?
Yeah, so that's funny. I actually went to an agent just like yourself.
Okay.
And I asked the agent, so what are my options?
Okay.
And the agent just put a whole bunch of view books on the table and said, read, these are your options. And TRU's view book was right there. And I just opened the first page, and the first thing I saw was the mountains and the valleys and the rivers and the lakes, and just I was mind blown. So I was looking for something that is very different from where I grew up. I grew up in an urban mega city, and moving to a place which is more quiet, more calm. And I thought that would be the perfect starting point for my time in Canada. Plus, not to mention that the West Coast is the warmest part of the country. So we really enjoy the full 4 seasons. So we get a nice winter, which is -5 to +5. So it's kind of milder. And then we also enjoy a beautiful summer, beautiful spring, beautiful fall. So I think weather was another reason why I chose British Columbia. So I first narrowed it down by province. I said, okay, I want to go to BC. And then I said, these are my options in BC. But I actually took the post-baccalaureate diploma. So I said, hey, I'm going to compare a post-baccalaureate diploma from a college versus a university. Obviously, I'm going to opt for the university because that will have a higher reputation. That said, the quality of education is pretty good across British Columbia, but I'm certain that going to TRU was the right decision because the experience is very different. You're studying in a campus community, you're studying with 3,900 other international students, but also 12,000 domestic students. And I think the experience is significantly different from what it could be if I would have chosen another institution. So yeah, that's my story. That's how I chose TRU.
Nice. Yeah. So at a point you were considering colleges versus university, and you end up using university, right?
Yeah, thanks to my agent.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you have already lived in Canada for some times and also work in Canada
Yeah.
too. Would you want to add on a bit more on this point between like college versus university
Yeah.
in terms of how they are perceived or how is it like?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of misconceptions that a university is more academic, while a college is more career focused. I cannot speak for every institution there is in Canada, but I can say for sure that TRU is very focused on employment just as much as a college would be. What is an institution if their students cannot be hired? So that's definitely one of the main focuses. I think the misconception comes from the fact that the way we perceive things, that if it's a college, of course it's going to be easier and cheaper and faster, but that's not necessarily true. So we have a very public system. We basically have a public education system in Canada. So the public institutions, they're all managed by the Ministry of Education. So for example, with British Columbia, University of BC, or SFU, TRU, these are the top three largest institutions. Or let's say another college like Douglas College or Langara College. All these institutions report to the Ministry of Education in BC. So the standard of quality is the same, to the point that we actually have something called as a BC transfer guide, which means a student can switch from one institution to another within BC and transfer all the credits. So what that means is that the system is really, it is really standardized, irrespective of which institution you choose. I think the focus should really, in my opinion, the focus should really be on the experience. What is it that students are seeking? And as I said, for me, I wanted something that would be life-changing. And many of our students, they choose TRU because they know that this is going to be, those 2 years you focus, you're going there for a purpose and you have long-term goals. TRU really helps in doing that.
Okay, that's very clear. Thank you. Just one more follow-up question, because Mumbai is very big, right?
Yes.
And a number of our students go to Canada. They also think a lot about employment.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
When they kind of know that it's a small city, they're just concerned about jobs opportunity, like both during that study and also after graduation. But let's talk about the part-time job first.
Yes.
How was it like for you for you or your friends to find part-time jobs when you were studying?
Yeah, just like all our students, I was also looking for a part-time job as soon as I landed in Canada. So it's not unusual. And I think it's good because part-time jobs, they help with some pocket money, but it also really helps in learning more about the people, about the place, especially somebody's interested in marketing, psychology, consumer behavior. You really understand everything when you're working in sales or in a restaurant or cafe. Anyway, so typically students find a job within a couple of weeks or months. If a student is expecting to find a job right upon landing like that week, I cannot assure that. There's a few things, right? There's a few steps before we have to first change our resume, change our cover letter, understand what is it that works in Canada. Again, we do have some workshops on that, and we have something called as an international orientation for our students. When they arrive, we actually there's a session just on part-time jobs, and we'll help them learn how to apply for a part-time job. What is it you need to change? What is it you need to do? There's jobs on campus, but there's also jobs in the community. TRU is located right in the center of Kamloops, so it's not too far from the main shops and restaurants and cafes and grocery stores. So typically our students will work in all of these places, lots of Tim Hortons, Starbucks. So there's lots of jobs. But as I said, it takes some time to apply for those jobs and get the position they want. And typically these will be in restaurants and cafes and grocery stores, not so much in office part-time jobs. Those are rare to find across Canada.
So two more questions on this one. I have heard that there are labor job shortage in all over Canada. Is that the same at Kamloops too?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. So
in fact, there's more labor shortage in Kamloops. So there's actually a lot of job opportunities, even upon graduation.
Yeah, okay. And one of the other thing that I also want to emphasize, because you mentioned it and I have heard this from many people, and I think it will be helpful for the audience to know that if they really want to get the jobs, they need to really learn about the process, make adjustment, and try to put the effort into sending the resume, try to follow up. It's not gonna be like people come to them, right? It requires effort too, that they need to pay attention on what's happening, participate, and then put in the effort, right?
Yeah, and this is my number one suggestion to international students is when you go to TRU or the campus of your choice, when you land in Canada, be active, be proactive, don't be passive. I think in South and Southeast Asia specifically, we're very pampered and we're very dependent on the system, on our families, on our friends for many things. In Canada, you're on your own, you're independent. Of course, you do have the support of the student services team and of the institution, which we can go into. But generally speaking, it all starts from you. You take the initiative, you take the first step. If you are not going to take the first step, I don't think you can get the help you want and you won't find success. But if you're willing to just ask, just, talk to people, just, be curious and just go out there. Get out of your apartments or your student dorms, get off your phones and actually start making connections. I think they will actually find a lot more success quickly in Canada.
Yeah, thank you. Because there are a number of people watching now, and I think it went up a little bit, but I just want to mention that remind people who just come in, we're talking with TIU right now, Suraj from TIU. You are a rep of the university, but you were also an alumni. ดังนั้นนะครับถ้าเกิดว่าขออนุญาตแปลนิดนึงถ้าเกิดว่าใครที่เพิ่งเข้ามาวันนี้เราคุยอยู่กับคุณสุรัตน์จาก TIU ซึ่งเขาเป็นเจ้าหน้าที่จากมหาวิทยาลัยที่บินมาจากแคนาดานะครับแล้วเขาเป็นอลัมไนคือเป็นศิษย์เก่าดังนั้นเนี่ยเขาแชร์ประสบการณ์ในการที่เคยไปเรียนแล้วก็ทำงานที่แคมป์ลูปแล้วก็ปัจจุบันเขาจบมาทำงานแล้วก็ได้ PR แล้วเขาก็ผ่านโปรเซสคล้ายๆกับที่ใครหลายๆคนสนใจเนาะดังนั้นใครมีคำถามนะครับพิมพ์มาไว้ในแชทบ็อกซ์กับในใช่ครับในแชทบ็อกซ์เป็นคอมเมนต์นะครับเดี๋ยวเราดึงคำถามขึ้นมาแล้วก็ตอบให้ได้นะครับก็สามารถที่จะถามมาได้เลยนะครับถ้ายังไม่มีคำถามระหว่างนี้ผมก็สัมภาษณ์ไปเรื่อยๆแต่ฟังดูแล้วมีคำถามหรือแบบมีความสงสัยอะไรเนี่ยที่อยากจะถามเขาเกี่ยวกับ TIU เกี่ยวกับโปรแกรมการเรียนหรือเกี่ยวข้องกับแบบเรียนจบแล้วหางานทำได้ยังไงจะขอ PR กระบวนการที่เขาผ่านมาเป็นยังไงเนี่ยก็ลองถามมาดูได้นะครับเดี๋ยวจะลองช่วยถามดูให้นะครับโอเค we talk about why TIU we talk about programs we talk about life in Kamloops particularly to work while studying. Another part is like after graduate. You mentioned previously that students usually stay at Kamloops, and you also mentioned about the local industry. But maybe you can help us a little bit more to be able to imagine Kamloops accurately in terms of what are the jobs that they can do after graduate or
So I think I'll correct myself. Students want to stay in Kamloops, but they usually end up going to many different places because their jobs will take them to different places. In many cases, the employers work with us, let's say from the north, from the northern communities of Canada, or from even more remote places. And students may go there for jobs. Students may go to the higher, like more urban areas, such as Vancouver or Toronto. Some graduates might want to take the advantage of rural immigration pilot programs. So in that case, they might go to, again, another specific community. So just to understand Kamloops better, we're 3.5 hours away from the city of Vancouver. By car. By flight, it's about 40 minutes. We're located on highway number 1. That highway connects Vancouver with Calgary, Banff, and it goes all the way up to Toronto and eventually to Halifax. So it's the longest highway in the world. I'm not sure, but at least in Canada for sure. It connects the west coast to the east coast completely through the country. So this particular highway is really important because it brings in a lot of business industry to Kamloops. Because we're located on that highway or the highway passes through Kamloops, it means that first of all, the supply chain is really connected with the Kamloops community. And especially because we're only 3.5 hours away from Vancouver, but 7 hours before going to the Canadian Rockies, that also brings in lots of tourism to Kamloops. So we're very strategically located and people have to pass through Kamloops to be able to get to the other side. So because of that, there's lots of jobs, especially part-time jobs. In terms of the full-time jobs upon graduation, we have mining is one of the very big industries, and then we also have education. So our school districts, our university of which is TRU, These are big employers. And then there's also some tech companies. We have a KPMG in Kamloops. We have a lot of startups in Kamloops, which is also a new area of focus for the city of Kamloops. So that brings in a lot of different jobs. And we have a main hospital that serves the entire region and not just Kamloops alone, based in downtown Kamloops. So this hospital is really strategically located as well to support Kamloops, but also lots of surrounding areas, and even like cities that are 1 or 2 hours away from Kamloops. So that's really important because again, that brings in people, that brings in jobs, that brings in business. So because of our location, we're actually very blessed that we have a lot of incoming and outgoing traffic. So these are temporary residents, of course, and then we also have lots of permanent residents. That's about 100,000 people. So for example, in Kamloops, we have everything from a Costco and a Walmart to like a mom and pop shop, like a small Italian restaurant owned by Italian people. So
it's not very small city. It's more like medium sized when you have this Walmart and some
exactly. There's nothing we don't have. Like we have one major mall which has like Sephora, which has Lululemon, and my point is that it's not like you have to go out of Kamloops to get anything. Everything is available in Kamloops, including international groceries. Like students can just go to any major grocery store and find Thai everything. Like we love Thai food, of course.
Ingredient and thing,
Even Canadians love Thai food, so it's not like I think it's very popular. So it's easy. Everything is easily available. So it is, quite easy for students during their time at TRU. Now, when they graduate, it really depends on what they're studying, what connections they made while they were studying. For example, somebody from a natural resources program might want to go into the forests, might want to go up in the north because that's where the industries are. Somebody in accounting, marketing, finance, these are quite universal and diverse professions. So students can stay in Kamloops, they can go in Vancouver, they can go to Toronto, so it doesn't really matter. Sometimes some students will move because the same profession may pay more in like a more rural city. Yeah, exactly. So in that case, we see students move for that reason as well. It really depends. But my suggestion is to not to worry too much about that part, because what happens typically is once a student arrives in Kamloops, that's when they understand the real dynamics of Canada and Canadian communities and how the system works. So I think one thing we can do for our viewers today and our students for KPG is if you're interested in a particular program, we can connect them with an alumni of that program, and that alumni can share their personal experience as well as suggestions on if you do this, here's what you'll get. So I think that might really help our students, and we're willing to connect our students with that.
Sure. Let me emphasize on that. ก็อันนึงที่ ผมไม่ได้แปลทั้งหมดนะที่สุรเขาพูดมาก็คือว่าเรื่องของ community ของ Kamloops เองอ่ะมันก็ไม่ได้เล็กเนอะมันมีทุกอย่างเลยนะ Walmart ห้างอะไรอย่างเงี้ยครับเราอยากจะต้องเข้าถึงอะไรเนี่ยก็มีให้เข้าถึงได้ใน Kamloops โดยที่เราไม่จำเป็นต้องไปนอก Kamloops เนอะแล้วก็อุตสาหกรรมก็มีหลากหลายนะครับทั้งเทคเองทั้งการท่องเที่ยวเองหรือว่า business ทั่วๆไปเนี่ยมันก็มีให้ทำได้นะครับแต่ว่าใครที่ได้บางงานบางสายแล้วอยากไปอยู่เมืองอื่นหลังเรียนจบเนี่ยมันก็เป็นไม่ได้เขาไม่อยากให้แบบโฟกัสมากเกินไปกับการที่แบบว่าการทำงานหลังเรียนจบว่าจะต้องอยู่ที่ไหนเนาะแต่ว่ามันมีความเป็นไปได้แน่นอนที่จะแบบหางานทำหลังเรียนจบได้นะครับแล้วก็อันที่เขาพูดถึงอันนึงก็คือว่าถ้าเกิดว่าใครสนใจเรียนสายไหนเป็นพิเศษเนี่ยสิ่งที่เขาอาจจะแนะนำก็คือว่าลองติดต่อทางเรามานะครับก็เป็นกันมานะครับแล้วเขาก็จะช่วยดูแล้วเดี๋ยวเราก็จะช่วยดูให้นะครับว่ามีอลัมไหนนะครับหรือศิษย์เก่าคนไหนบ้างที่จบตรงนี้จาก TRU มาแล้วก็ไปทำงานอะไรอยู่จะได้ให้ศิษย์เก่าตรงนั้นเนี่ยแนะนำจากประสบการณ์เขาได้นะครับว่าเขาเรียนอันนี้ตอนนี้ทำงานอันนี้อยู่เขาผ่านอะไรมาบ้างเผื่อเขาจะมี insight ที่จะแนะนำเราได้ดังนั้นถ้าเกิดว่าใครสนใจ TRU นะครับแล้วก็สนใจว่าอยากเรียนโปรแกรมไหนจบไปแล้วทำอะไรเนี่ยก็ติดต่อทางเรามาได้เดี๋ยวเราจะ connect กับทางมหาวิทยาลัยเพื่อหาอลัมไหนมาช่วยแนะนำให้ก็น่าจะเป็น insight ที่ดีมากๆกับการที่จะเลือกสายการเรียน Yeah, I think that will be very helpful to have someone with the insight to talk to the prospective students.
Yeah, and I also recommend students to just do their own research, watch videos of the university on YouTube, and connect with alumni on LinkedIn. And there's always so much advantage to doing that, because that's how they can learn about the difference in experiences. And not just for TRU, for all the institutions. Students should do that. Go above it. Like, choosing an institution is such an important decision. And in many cases, I see that many students will just decide, oh, I want to go here because the city is more popular, or because my family lives here. If I did that, I would probably live in New York for the rest of my life. But I don't think that's how life works. I think choosing an institution and a place where you want to go is
your own decision.
And it should be an informed decision. And for information, students, again, be proactive, do your research. If you want to succeed in Canada, this is the beginning of that journey, right before you even go to Canada. And this is where I tell students, if TRU is not the right fit for you, that's okay. But you need to know why. And you need to know in comparison to which other institutions. So you need to do your own comparisons and then make the right choice.
Yeah, I think it's common for people to assume that they would get some advice, complete advice from someone, but in fact, we never know what the advice are based upon, right? Do they know our condition? Do they know our preference?
Past, history, there's so many things.
So we need to really ask ourselves and try to do research. Watch some YouTube and watch different perspective too, not just from someone who have bad experience on something, right? Just try to find different side of the information. I think that important, and make your own informed decision, like you say, is important. Okay, we cover a number of things. Let's get to the point when students get to TRU, right? What are some of the support services that you have? TRU has a dormitory. We can talk about that too. But there are other aspects to that students usually have questions like career support, student adjustment, and immigration advice.
Many factors. So I'll break this down into 4 parts. But before I even go into that, I want to say, like, TRU Student Services team is award-winning for, first of all, how big the team is and how many languages they speak, but also for the actual type of service and support they have provided to students over the years. Our team is mostly TRU alumni, just like myself. I think that's just very common, but we try to hire our alumni as much as possible, of course. So you never know, anybody watching this could one day become a part of my team. Don't know them yet. But anyway, I said I'll divide this into 4 parts. The first part is housing. So when it comes to on-campus accommodation options, we have 3 dormitories on our campus. One is called the McGill Residence, we have the North Tower, and we have East Village. These 3 can differ from $400 a month to $1,200 a month, depending on what the student wants and their lifestyle choices. So we have these options. We also have homestay, where a student can live with a Canadian family, and that's $1,000 a month, and that includes 3 meals a day. We will help you with housing. Once you submit your application, then you have access to the team for support with housing. You're not on your own when it comes to housing. The next piece here is off-campus housing. So we also have lots of off-campus housing options in Kamloops, but that's if students plan in advance. If they're hoping to find something off-campus last minute, that will not work. So what we recommend is students can opt for an on-campus housing when they first land in Kamloops, and then they can move to an off-campus housing option later once they're more familiar with the neighborhoods and the city. My second part of this is the services and support. So what that means is, first of all, we have academic supports. If a student is struggling with mathematics or with English, we have help centers and private tutoring, which is free of cost. Students don't pay for that. This really helps them in succeeding in their classrooms with their assignments. We also have several programs where we're just observing our students' grades, and then as soon as we realize that the student is not performing very well, we will reach out to the student trying to help them. So the academic supports exist, again, across the university in all faculties, but we need students to take the proactive effort as well. The third piece is life supports. So we really pay a lot of attention to mental health and physical health. So at TRU, first of all, we have a huge tournament-sized sports facility with a tournament swimming pool, as well as a gym and a lot of different facilities for students to use. We also have a medical clinic on our campus, which is the doctors only meet TRU students. So that's they can only provide service to students. So that's really good for our students because that's also covered under the medical insurance. We also have the mental health counseling, as I mentioned. So we have therapists, and students can book counseling appointments, and they can get mental health therapy as well. Especially during exams when students are under a lot of pressure and they need somebody to talk to. Of course, there's friends, but there's therapy if they need something more serious. And then the last piece is the support that our ISAs give. So that's International Student Advisor. So this is a team, but every student will have one dedicated ISA who will be their go-to person for everything. So if they're feeling low, they're feeling depressed, or they need that support, they have any questions about anything, go to the ISA. So that's an International Student Advisor. And within that team, we have two more things. So we have the RISIA, which is Regulated International Student Immigration Advisor, and we have an RCIC consultant. So basically, students can get support from study permit extensions and PGWP applications, all the way to even getting information about their PR application. So our team has the qualified people qualified by the government of Canada to provide this information to students. And again, there's appointments available both virtually, in person. So depending on the student, we can provide the same service in whatever format.
Very comprehensive, right? From student adjustment to advice for their future.
Yeah, exactly. And sorry, I think I have to add a fifth part, which is the career services that we spoke about. So that's the career education department, and we call it career education or the career and experiential learning because we want students to think about their long-term career and plan accordingly. So making the right choices in their career path, from something as simple as Canadianizing the resume and cover letter to making these connections. We have 3 job fairs a year, and some of the programs have their own independent career programs. Many of our bachelor's degrees have co-op. Co-op means paid internships. Everything is facilitated through our career department. So the career services team will support students in this entire journey. And my suggestion to students again is to set up an appointment with the career coordinator or somebody in the career office as soon as they arrive. Because if they're good,
not the last time.
Yeah, not like exactly. And this is specifically for postgraduate diploma students. I think undergraduate programs like bachelor degree students have 4 years to spend at TRU, so they have the time. But if somebody comes in just for 2 years at a postgraduate or a master's program, I think the first thing you should do upon arrival in your first semester is, have a meeting with a career counselor and ask them, what is it that I need to do to get here? So ideally, you should know what the outcome of your program is. So for example, if you're taking post-baccalaureate diploma in finance, it's obvious you're going to become a finance expert or finance analyst. If you're taking accounting, you're going to become an accountant. So it's important to know that and then say, okay, this is what I want to do and this is where I want to do it. You want to live in Kamloops, you want to live in Vancouver, you want to live in Toronto. So accordingly, our career experts will help them in making the connections from the beginning. And I can share this from personal experience for myself, my friends, my graduates, my students from years. I've seen everyone get that service and support. Some students don't need it, and we recognize that. But if somebody needs it, it's there, and I see a lot of students take full advantage of that.
Thank you. I think it's very comprehensive, and it go back to the note that we mentioned earlier that just don't wait for the last minute and put your effort into it to plan and work on your plan and goals since the beginning, since when you already arrived to Canada.
Exactly.
So be prepared for it so that you will have more opportunity to achieve your goal, right?
Right.
Okay, I think last part of the question is about the admission in general and the fees. Maybe you can talk about the post-baccalaureate and master program admission in general, in terms of the qualification or the GPA requirement, and then bachelor degree first. Would you want to mention on this topic?
Okay. So for most programs, we only require 2 things, which is the high school or the bachelor's degree transcript and the English proficiency certificate. So these are the only 2 things that we typically require for most programs. So if you are going to a bachelor's degree program, we look at grade 11 and 12, we look at the IELTS score. For all undergraduate programs, the IELTS requirement is an overall of 6.5 with no bands below 6. But we also have EAP upgrading at TRU. So if you don't meet the minimum required score, we can help you upgrade your English while you are at TRU. This also applies to mathematics upgrading and many other programs. So TRU will support students in getting to where they want to be if they don't already meet the requirements fully. So that's one thing. Now, when it comes to master's and post-bac programs, again, we look at the bachelor's degree. We don't really look at the grade 11 and 12. For the bachelor's degree, the GPA requirements for master's program is 3 out of 4. But for post-bac diploma, we don't have any specific GPA requirements as long as you passed your post-bac, your bachelor's degree. And then we require IELTS again. So for post-bac diplomas, the IELTS is 6.5, no bands below 6. For master's programs, it is 7, no bands below 6.5. But some master's programs are also on the lower side of the IELTS requirement. So anyway, this is a lot of information. So what I recommend you to do if you're interested in learning, if you're eligible for a program or not, contact KPG and they can help you identify if you're eligible and what documents you need.
Sure. Thank you. And then we talk about the fee and scholarship. If
Yes.
I think final part of the things we talk about is very important is the fee and the scholarship if there are any.
Absolutely. So we do have, first we have an application fee of $100, which is non-refundable and non-waivable. The $100 is just your commitment to applying to TRU, and then you pay the deposit when you receive the offer. The offer comes in 3 to 5 business days for most programs. For master's programs, it's 4 to 6 weeks, but for most programs, it's 3 to 5 business days. The deposit will be $9,000. The tuition fee at TRU per year is 18,000 Canadian dollars. So $18,000 per year is the average tuition fee for most programs. Again, for some programs, it could be lesser. For some programs, it could be slightly more than that, but feel free to contact us and we can tell you exactly the tuition fee for any program. For scholarships, we do have some entrance scholarships for our undergraduate students. So in that case, you can contact our authorized partner, KPG, and they will help you apply for scholarships. So that would be only for our bachelor's degree students. We have up to $4,000 depending on the student's academic performance as well as their IELTS scores.
Okay, thank you. I just want to mention if there are questions, please feel free to comment on it and then we'll respond to it. So far I have not seen any, but I asked all my list of questions. But if there are no questions, I will come up with some more questions. ก็ถ้าเกิดว่าใครมีคำถามนะครับสามารถพิมพ์มาได้ในคอมเมนต์เนาะเดี๋ยวเราตอบให้ถามคุณสุรัตน์ก็ได้นะครับเขาเป็นศิษย์เก่านะครับที่ผ่านโปรเซสเหมือนหลายๆคนนะก็คือเป็นนักเรียนต่างชาตินะครับไปเรียนอยู่ที่ TRU นะครับแล้วก็เรียนจบก็ทำงานในแคนาดาแล้วก็สมัครขอ PR ได้นะครับทีนี้อันนี้ก็เป็นสามารถถามเขาโดยตรงได้นะครับหรือว่าจะถามผมก็ได้ในเรื่องอื่นๆก็สามารถคอมเมนต์มาได้นะครับแต่ถ้าระหว่างที่ยังรอคำถามอยู่เดี๋ยวผมอาจจะถามคำถามเพิ่มเติม So I'm just curious because there is no question. When you were thinking about TRU, right? Sometimes people may think about university and their ranking. Did you think about ranking? You think about a ranking when you were considering options?
Yeah. So going back to what I mentioned about the quality of education being pretty much standardized across BC, most universities will have the same level of quality, and especially like in many cases we even share professors. So professors will teach in Vancouver for 3 days a week and then come to Kamloops, teach in Kamloops for 2 days a week. So that's also something that's quite common. But that said, I think you asked me about why, for my own choice, I wondered, hey, what about ranking? But then very soon I was told, and then I double checked that Canada does not have a ranking system. There are a few third parties that do provide rankings, but they're not necessarily by the government or nobody actively participates in those rankings. It's not like the US. So we don't even know that if there is an organized ranking system and to what extent we are a part of it. So my suggestion to students again is to pick the experience that is right for them. The quality of education will still be the same regardless of which institution, university they choose. And I think the quality of experience can differ for sure. but there's no way to rank that because it's quite qualitative.
Okay, you have covered a lot of very good information based on your experience. I just want to ask one final question. Because you went through that process, right? Study, work, and then immigrate. Do you have any tips for students, particularly from Thailand or Southeast Asia, who considering going to Canada?
So depending on the student, I think my tip would change, but I have one tip that applies to all students. One thing that I always recommend is always plan long term, don't plan short term. Don't just think about what I'm going to get tomorrow by taking this. Think about what I'm going to get next week. So the more long term you think, you're investing in your time, right? So it's been almost a decade for me, having immigrated or having moved to Canada as a student first, PGWP, PR, or citizen, as we talked about. But the main key thing here is that students need to be very long-term focused. If this is the path they want, I think they need to remember that, because I think many students get lost in making choices and decisions that are very short-term and very instant results. Results don't come instantly. Good results don't come instantly. It requires hard work, dedication, perseverance, commitment. So that process takes time, and I think that would be my tip to students: is be patient, be hardworking, and focus on the long term.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much for your time today, and I will end this in Thai language. ก็ขอบคุณสำหรับทุกคนที่รับฟังในวันนี้นะครับทั้งทาง Facebook แล้วก็ YouTube ในวันนี้เราได้ฟังข้อมูลแล้วก็ประสบการณ์จากคุณสุรัตน์ที่เคยเรียนที่ TIU แล้วก็ทำงานที่ TIU ดูด้วยนะครับแล้วก็ผ่านโปรเซสตรงนั้นที่เราหลายคนอาจจะกำลังมองหาเนี่ยคือการไปเรียนถ้าเป็นไปได้ก็หาโอกาสการทำงานอยู่ในแคนาดาใช่ไหมครับหรืออาจจะรวมถึงการสมัครขอสถานะ PR ซึ่งสถาบันของรัฐบาลนะครับโดยเฉพาะมหาวิทยาลัยอย่าง TIU เนี่ยก็จะตอบโจทย์เราตรงนั้นนะครับแล้วก็ TIU มีโปรแกรมให้เลือกหลากหลายมากๆนะครับทั้งระดับดิโพลมานะครับ Bachelor Degree นะครับ Post Baccalaureate คือจบป.ตรีแล้วถึงจะเข้าเรียนได้เป็นดิโพลมาที่แบบต้องจบป.ตรีก่อนเนาะกับ Master Degree เองตัวเลือกหลักสูตรก็ค่อนข้างหลากหลายใครที่สนใจนะครับก็แนะนำว่าเข้าไปในเว็บไซต์ TIU International Student แล้วก็ดูที่โปรแกรม list นะครับว่ามีโปรแกรมอะไรบ้างมันมีบอกไว้หมดเลยว่าโปรแกรมแต่ละโปรแกรมมีเปิด intake ไหนบ้างมี co-op ไหมทำ conditional admission ได้ไหมลองดูได้ถ้าเกิดดูแล้วยังไม่แน่ใจหรือมีคำถามตรงไหนนะครับก็ติดต่อทางเรามาได้ที่ Line Official นะครับ assign KORPUNGUN นะครับหรืออย่างที่สุรัตน์บอกไว้ถ้าเกิดใครพอจะรู้แล้วเนี่ยสนใจโปรแกรมนี้อยากจะถามอลัมไหนของ TRU นะว่าเรียนจบตรงนี้ไปโอกาสด้านการทำงานเป็นอย่างไรอะไรอย่างนี้นะครับก็สามารถที่จะติดต่อทางเรามาได้เดี๋ยวเราจะช่วย connect กับทาง TRU ให้แล้วก็ลองหาอลัมไหนที่มีประสบการณ์ในสายงานที่เราสนใจนะครับมาแชร์ให้เราฟังเลยให้พวกเราคุยแล้วก็ลองตัดสินใจดูได้ครับ All right, I think this is a very informative session. I learned about TRU and I'm sure the audience also learned about TRU. So thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you, and thank you for having me here.
Yeah, thank you. I'll click to end the stream and